The quantum anomaly detector aboard the Nexarian observation post Zenith 7 chimed for the third time that cycle. Senior observer Kextall clicked their secondary appendages in irritation, certain it was another malfunction. The detector had been acting erratically for the past several rotations, picking up impossible readings from the primitive world designated SO3. The humans called it Earth. Another ghost signal, asked junior observer Myrex, their crystalline eyes shifting through various spectrum analyses of the target planet. Probably, Kextall responded, but followed protocol anyway, adjusting the station's quantum sensors to focus on the anomalous reading. The Nexarian collective had monitored this sector for millennia, watching countless species rise and fall. Humans were hardly remarkable. A young race barely able to reach their own satellite, still burning fossil fuels and fighting among themselves over arbitrary territorial boundaries. Yet something about these recent readings troubled Kextall. They defied conventional physics in ways that shouldn't be possible for a civilization at Earth's development stage. The senior observer had dismissed the first few incidents as sensor glitches, but the pattern was becoming harder to ignore. Recording another quantum variance, Myrex announced, their voice carrying an unusual tremor. Energy signature matches previous anomalies, but the magnitude is increasing exponentially. Kextall moved to the primary observation console, their segmented fingers dancing across the holographic interface. The readings were impossible. The energy patterns suggested manipulation of quantum fields at a level that even the Nexarians, with their millions of years of scientific advancement, had only theoretically achieved. Cross-reference with historical archives, Kextall ordered. Show me humanity's technological progression over the last solar revolution of their world. The data streamed across the screen. Primitive chemical rockets, basic artificial intelligence, crude attempts at quantum computing. Nothing that could explain these readings. Yet there it was again. Another surge of energy, precisely controlled and deliberately masked. Senior observer, Myrex's voice was barely a whisper now. I've detected a pattern in the temporal distribution of these anomalies. They're not random. They're tests. Kextall felt their primary hearts skip a beat. Tests meant intent. Intent meant knowledge. Knowledge that humans shouldn't possess. Expand analysis to all observation posts in the sector, they commanded. The response was immediate and troubling. Similar anomalies had been detected by other stations, each carefully calibrated to appear just at the edge of their detection threshold. Had they not been looking for it specifically, the pattern would have been dismissed as background noise. They know we're watching, Kextall realized, their scales shifting color with growing concern. They've known all along. The implications were staggering. The humans hadn't just made a technological leap. They had deliberately concealed it. Every primitive rocket launch, every public demonstration of their supposedly limited capabilities, it was all a facade. Behind this carefully constructed mask of technological infancy, humanity had somehow achieved what the Nexarian collective had thought impossible. Send an encrypted burst transmission to Central Command, Kextall ordered. Priority Alpha. Message begins. Possible Class 1 civilization emergence event detected. Species, human. Technological advancement significantly beyond previously assessed levels. Recommend immediate. The quantum detector screamed. Every sensor on the observation post lit up simultaneously as space itself seemed to twist. A vessel emerged from what appeared to be a localized quantum tunnel, a technology that existed only in Nexarian theoretical physics. The ship was clearly human in design, its angles and aesthetics unmistakable, yet it moved with a grace that defied their understanding of physics, surrounded by a field of controlled quantum fluctuations that their sensors couldn't properly process. Impossible, Myrex breathed, their crystalline eyes cycling through colors of disbelief. The human vessel hung in space for precisely 3 seconds, oriented itself toward the observation post, and transmitted a simple message in perfect Nexarian quantum code. We see you too. Then it vanished, leaving behind only scrambled sensors and the shattered remains of everything the Nexarians thought they knew about humanity's capabilities. Kextol stared at the space where the ship had been, their scales now a deep shade of troubled indigo. They'd modified their transmission to Central Command, adding a final line that would send shockwaves through the entire collective. Assessment: we have gravely underestimated them. In the darkness of space, more quantum anomalies began to appear. The game of hide and seek was over. Humanity was ready to step onto the galactic stage, not as the primitive species the Nexarians had dismissed them as, but as something far more dangerous, an equal they hadn't seen coming. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the holographic display in the heart of Project Quantum Veil, Earth's most closely guarded secret. The massive underground facility, buried deep beneath the Antarctic ice, hummed with the power of humanity's greatest technological achievement: true quantum manipulation technology. Status report on the Nexarian observation posts, she asked, her breath visible in the cold air of the command center. The facility's temperature was kept near freezing to maintain quantum stability in the core processors. "They're scrambling," replied Commander James Rodriguez, his dark eyes fixed on the real-time data streams showing Nexarian communications traffic. "Our little demonstration has thrown their entire observation network into chaos. They're pulling in ships from 3 sectors." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. 20 years of careful planning, of hiding their true progress behind a smokescreen of primitive technology, had led to this moment. The Nexarians had watched Earth for centuries, categorizing humans as just another young species stumbling toward the stars. They never suspected that humanity had detected their presence decades ago, or that this discovery had united Earth's nations in an unprecedented way. "Project status?" she asked, turning to Dr. Amit Patel, the quantum mechanics lead. "All systems nominal," he reported, his fingers dancing across floating holographic controls. "The quantum field generators are maintaining perfect stability. We can initiate full deployment at any time." The technology that powered their achievements would have seemed like magic to the public if they knew about it. The breakthrough had come from an unexpected direction. Instead of trying to overcome quantum uncertainty, they had learned to harness it. The result was technology that didn't just use quantum effects. It manipulated the very fabric of reality. "We're detecting increased Nexarian fleet movement," announced Lieutenant Emma Foster from her monitoring station. "They're mobilizing their primary battle groups. Looks like our little visit to their observation post got their attention." Sarah nodded, unsurprised. The Nexarians were a Type Io civilization, capable of harnessing the entire energy output of their star system. Their technology was incredibly advanced, but it was also predictable, following a linear path of development that hadn't changed in millennia. "Initialize Phase 2, Sarah commanded. Throughout the facility, quantum cores spun up to full power. The real genius of humanity's quantum technology wasn't just its capability, but its complete departure from conventional physics. While the Nexarians had built their civilization on manipulating known natural laws, humans had found ways to rewrite those laws entirely." "Message from Central Command," Rodriguez announced. "We're getting similar reports from all our deep space monitoring stations. The Nexarians are mobilizing their entire fleet. They're not taking any chances." "Can't blame them," Sarah mused. "We just shattered their understanding of physics and proved their surveillance network is compromised. They have to assume we're either a threat or an opportunity they can't ignore." The quantum display showed the positions of every Nexarian vessel within 50 light-years. Their movements were precise, methodical, exactly what you'd expect from a civilization that had grown comfortable in its technological superiority. But that superiority was based on assumptions that humanity had deliberately let them make. "All quantum arrays are synchronized," Emmett reported. "The network is ready. We can deploy the full defensive grid whenever you give the word." Sarah took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth. For 2 decades, Earth had prepared for this confrontation, developing technology that worked on principles the Nexarians couldn't comprehend. Every public space launch, Every primitive satellite deployment had been a carefully choreographed performance to maintain their deception. Signal from the president. Rodriguez said. Authorization code confirmed. We are green for full deployment. Sarah straightened, her voice clear and commanding. Initialize the quantum veil. All stations, execute Protocol Omega. Across the solar system, hidden quantum generators activated. Reality itself seemed to shiver as thousands of precisely calibrated quantum fields synchronized. In an instant, the entire solar system was enveloped in a network of quantum-manipulated space, an achievement that should have been impossible by every known law of physics. On their sensors, the approaching Nexarian fleet would see something unprecedented. An entire solar system that could shift and phase through quantum states at will. Every weapon they possessed, every strategy they had developed over millions of years, was about to become obsolete. Multiple quantum signatures detected, Emma reported, her voice tense with excitement. The Nexarians are attempting to establish a containment perimeter around the solar system. Let them try, Sarah said quietly. They're about to learn that humanity doesn't play by their rules. We never did. In the space around Earth, reality itself began to dance to humanity's tune. The quantum veil wasn't just a defensive system. It was a declaration. Humanity was announcing its presence on the galactic stage, not as the primitive species the Nexarians had dismissed, but as something entirely new, a civilization that had found its own path to the stars. The game of hide and seek was over. Now came the real test, whether humanity's unconventional approach to physics and reality itself would prove superior to the Nexarians' millions of years of technological development. The next few hours would determine whether humanity's great gamble would lead to recognition or annihilation. High Admiral Vexthor of the Nexarian Collective stood on the command deck of the flagship Eternal Dawn, watching the tactical displays with mounting unease. The human solar system stretched before them, now wrapped in an incomprehensible quantum field that defied their most advanced scanning technology. Behind him, the combined might of the Nexarian fleet, 10,000 ships strong, held position in a perfect containment formation. Energy readings are inconsistent, High Admiral, reported Fleet Tactician Zarek. The quantum field appears to be altering the fundamental constants of spacetime within its boundary. Our weapons systems cannot establish targeting locks. Vexthor's scales shifted to a deep purple of concern. In all his centuries of service, he had never encountered anything like this. The humans had not only mastered quantum manipulation, but had done so in ways that the Collective's greatest minds had never imagined possible. Open a communication channel, he commanded. Let us see if these humans can be reasoned with. Before his officers could comply, every quantum communication system aboard the fleet activated simultaneously. On their screens appeared a human female, her dark eyes reflecting an intelligence that made Vexthor's primary heart skip a beat. This is Dr. Sarah Chen of Earth's Quantum Defense Initiative, she announced in perfect Nexarian. Your containment fleet has entered our defensive perimeter. While we acknowledge your right to protect your interests, we suggest you reconsider your current course of action. Vexthor straightened, his ceremonial armor gleaming under the starlight. I am High Admiral Vexthor of the Nexarian Collective. Your species has concealed technological advances that pose a potential threat to galactic stability. We demand an immediate explanation and full disclosure of your capabilities. Sarah's expression remained neutral. With respect, High Admiral, we don't answer to the Collective. We concealed our advances precisely because of your civilization's history of incorporating less developed species into your empire. You dare, Zarek began, but Vexthor silenced him with a gesture. Your deception changes nothing, Vexthor stated. The Collective maintains order in this galaxy. Your quantum technology must be studied and regulated for the greater good. A small smile crossed Sarah's face. We suspected you might take that position. Allow us to demonstrate why that would be unwise. The quantum field surrounding Earth's solar system pulsed. In an instant, 300 Nexarian ships, perfectly spaced throughout their formation, simply vanished. They reappeared seconds later, their positions reversed, internal systems temporarily offline. That was a localized quantum phase shift, Sarah explained calmly. We selectively altered the position of your ships by shifting them through quantum space. We could have just as easily scattered them across the galaxy or merged them with their own quantum shadows. Vexthor felt a chill run through all four of his hearts. The implications were staggering. The humans hadn't just developed new technology. They had fundamentally altered their understanding of reality itself. The collective has ruled the stars for millions of years, he stated, trying to maintain his composure. We brought order to chaos, unity to division. Your actions threaten everything we have built. No, High Admiral, Sarah corrected. We threaten your assumption of superiority. Humanity has no interest in ruling the galaxy or imposing our will on others. We simply refuse to be ruled. As if to emphasize her point, the quantum field rippled again. This time, it created perfect replicas of the entire Nexarian fleet, quantum echoes that were indistinguishable from the originals. Your sensors now tell you there are two identical fleets, Sarah continued, both read as equally real. Can you be certain which ships are your originals? Can you risk firing weapons when you can't trust your own position in space-time? Vexthor's tactical training warred with his growing realization that they were facing something beyond their experience. The humans hadn't just achieved technological parity. They had developed an entirely new paradigm of existence. What are your terms? He asked finally, his scales shifting to the blue-green of diplomatic engagement. Recognition of Earth's sovereignty and independence, Sarah replied promptly. A non-aggression pact with the collective. And most importantly, acceptance that there are more paths to advancement than the one the collective has chosen. The command deck fell silent as Vexthor considered the implications. The humans had not only outsmarted them, they had rendered millions of years of Nexarian military doctrine obsolete in a single encounter. And if we refuse? Sarah's expression hardened slightly. Then we demonstrate why attempting to control a species that can rewrite local reality is a supremely bad idea. As if to punctuate her statement, the quantum field pulsed one final time. When it cleared, the entire Nexarian fleet found itself surrounded by a sphere of distorted spacetime, where the laws of physics themselves seemed to be more suggestion than rule. In that moment, Vexthor realized that the age of unquestioned Nexarian dominance was over. Humanity had not only joined the galactic community, they had changed the rules of existence itself. The Nexarian High Council chamber erupted in chaos. 3 solar cycles had passed since the confrontation at Earth, and the footage of their fleet's humiliation played again on the quantum displays. High Admiral Vexthor stood before them, his scales a troubled mix of colors as he delivered his report. The humans have not remained idle, he announced, his voice cutting through the discord. While they appear to honor the non-aggression pact on the surface, our deep space sensors have detected quantum disturbances throughout collective space. They're mapping our territory, studying our defenses, preparing. In the shadows of Project Quantum Veil, Sarah Chen reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The Nexarians were adapting faster than expected, attempting to reverse engineer the quantum anomalies they'd witnessed. But they were still thinking in linear terms, trying to understand quantum manipulation through the lens of conventional physics. They're developing quantum shielding, Commander Rodriguez reported, gesturing to the holographic data streams, trying to create safe zones where our phase-shifting technology won't work. Sarah nodded, unsurprised. They still don't understand. They're trying to stop us from manipulating reality, instead of asking why we can do it in the first place. The truth was both simpler and more profound than the Nexarians suspected. Humanity's quantum breakthrough hadn't come from superior technology, but from a fundamental shift in perspective. Where the Nexarians saw quantum uncertainty as a problem to be solved, humans had embraced it as a feature to be exploited. In the depths of Nexarian space, reality began to fray. not in dramatic, obvious ways, but in subtle distortions that drove their scientists to the brink of madness. Quantum entanglement networks experienced unexplainable delays. Warships reported ghost images on their sensors that couldn't be explained by any known phenomenon. Another research facility has gone dark, reported Zarek to the High Council. The quantum shielding failed catastrophically. Not from an attack. The scientists report that reality itself seemed to disagree with their experiments. The Shadow War wasn't fought with fleets and weapons, but with understanding and perception. Humanity had seeded quantum observation points throughout Nexarian space, each one subtly altering the fabric of reality through the mere act of observation. It was warfare on a level that transcended traditional conflict. In the Quantum Veil facility, Dr. Amit Patel made a breakthrough that changed everything. "We're not just manipulating quantum states," he explained to Sarah, his eyes bright with excitement. "We're teaching reality new rules. The more we observe and interact with space-time in certain ways, the more it learns." The implications were staggering. The quantum distortions weren't weapons. They were seeds of change, slowly teaching the universe itself new ways to behave. Every quantum observation point was like a teacher, showing local space-time that there were alternatives to the rigid laws the Nexarians had built their civilization upon. On the fringes of collective space, Nexarian colonies began reporting impossible phenomena. Quantum technology that had worked flawlessly for millennia began to exhibit new behaviors. Reality itself seemed to be evolving, becoming more fluid, more amenable to possibility rather than certainty. "They're not attacking us," High Council member Lexera realized, her scales shifting to the white of profound understanding. "They're changing the fundamental nature of our reality. Every defense we build, every countermeasure we deploy, only accelerates the transformation." Back on Earth, Sarah stood before the combined leadership of the Quantum Defense Initiative. The Nexarians built their empire on the assumption that the laws of physics are immutable, she explained. Their entire civilization is based on manipulating these laws in increasingly sophisticated ways. But we chose a different path. Instead of trying to master the universe's rules, we learned to suggest new ones. The quantum displays showed the spread of reality distortions throughout Nexarian space. It wasn't an invasion or an attack. It was evolution on a cosmic scale. Humanity had introduced uncertainty and possibility into a civilization built on predictability and control. "Their quantum shielding is failing across all sectors," Rodriguez reported. "Not because it's flawed, but because the underlying principles it's based on are no longer consistently true." Sarah nodded. "They're facing a choice now. Either adapt to a universe that allows for greater possibility, or remain trapped in their rigid understanding of reality, while the cosmos itself evolves beyond them." The Shadow War would have no dramatic battles, no heroic last stands. Instead, it would end with a civilization realizing that their greatest enemy wasn't humanity. It was their own inability to embrace a universe that contained more wonder and possibility than their sciences had ever imagined. A year had passed since the beginning of the Shadow War, and the Nexarian collective's capital world of Nexus Prime sparkled like a jewel in the light of its binary suns. But to those who knew where to look, the changes were unmistakable. Reality rippled and shifted in subtle ways, quantum uncertainties bleeding into the macro scale in ways that would have been impossible just months before. High Admiral Vexthor stood in the Great Archive, his scales now permanently settled into the iridescent pattern that marked those who had adapted to the new quantum state of existence. Beside him, Dr. Sarah Chen observed the holographic displays showing the spread of quantum evolution throughout the galaxy. "Your people have transformed everything," Vexthor said, not with anger, but with a mix of awe and resignation. "Not through conquest or dominance, but by introducing a new possibility into the fundamental fabric of existence." Sarah nodded, watching as quantum distortion patterns danced across the display. "We never intended to defeat the collective," she explained. "We wanted to free it from the limitations of rigid thinking, from the belief that there is only one path to understanding the universe." In the year since humanity had seeded quantum observation points throughout Nexarian space, reality itself had begun to evolve. The rigid laws of physics that the collective had built their civilization upon hadn't been broken. They had been expanded, given room to grow and change in ways that defied conventional understanding. The younger generations have adapted remarkably well, Vex Thor noted, gesturing to a group of young Nexarians in the Archives research section. Their scales shifted through impossible colors as they manipulated quantum fields with an intuitive ease that would have been unthinkable a year ago. They don't try to control quantum uncertainty. They dance with it. The great quantum computing networks of the collective had evolved too, moving beyond binary certainties into a new realm of quantum possibility, where once they processed information through rigid pathways, now they explored multiple realities simultaneously, finding solutions that existed in the spaces between possibility and certainty. Reports from the outer colonies are increasingly positive, Sarah said, pulling up the latest data. The quantum evolution has stabilized. Reality is more flexible now, but not chaotic. It's as if the universe itself has learned to accommodate multiple truths simultaneously. In the heart of Project Quantum Veil back on Earth, Dr. Amit Patel had made another breakthrough. The quantum observation points hadn't just changed Nexarian space, they had begun to influence the evolution of consciousness itself. Both humans and Nexarians were developing new ways of thinking, new ways of perceiving reality that transcended their original limitations. We're seeing similar developments in human space, Sarah continued. Our children are being born with an intuitive understanding of quantum mechanics that our greatest scientists had to struggle to grasp. It's as if both our species are evolving together, becoming something new. Vex Thor moved to the Archive's central platform, initiating a galaxy-wide quantum transmission. The High Council has reached a decision, he announced. The Nexarian collective will no longer seek to maintain rigid control over reality. Instead, we will embrace this evolution, becoming partners in the universe's journey toward greater possibility. The response came not in words, but in quantum pulses of acknowledgement from across the galaxy. Both human and Nexarian quantum networks resonated in harmony, creating patterns of interference that generated new insights, new possibilities, new ways of being. Your people feared us when we first revealed ourselves, Sarah observed. Now I wonder if perhaps we feared you as well, feared that your rigid adherence to certain universal laws would prevent our own evolution. And now, Vex Thor asked, his scales shimmering with curiosity. Now we understand that evolution isn't about superiority or control. It's about adaptation, about finding new ways to exist in a universe that's far more wonderful and strange than either of our species imagined. In the space between their worlds, reality continued to evolve. The quantum fields that had once been weapons of war had become bridges of understanding, teaching both species that the true measure of civilization wasn't its ability to impose order on chaos, but its willingness to embrace the infinite possibilities that chaos contained. The children of both species would grow up in a universe where the lines between possible and impossible were not walls but doors, where reality itself was not a rigid framework, but a canvas for imagination and discovery. They were no longer just humans or Nexarians. They were evolution's children, the first generation of what both species would become. As the binary sun set on Nexus Prime, casting quantum-shifted colors across the sky, Sarah and Vex Thor stood in silence, watching the future unfold in ways that neither of their species could have predicted. The war was over, not with the victory of one side over the other, but with the victory of possibility over limitation, of evolution over stagnation. In the end, humanity's greatest weapon hadn't been their quantum technology or their ability to manipulate reality. It had been their willingness to imagine a universe where the impossible was merely improbable, where the laws of physics were not chains but guidelines, and where two vastly different species could learn to see the universe through each other's eyes. The age of rigid certainty was over. The age of quantum possibility had begun.